The Normans were a people living in the medieval Duchy of Normandy in northern France. Their unique culture was born from the intermingling between Norse Viking settlers, indigenous Franks, and Gallo-Romans. Various Viking settlements were created along the northern coast of modern France following a series of raids by mainly Danish Norsemen. These settlements were finally legitimized when Rollo, a Scandinavian Viking leader, agreed to swear fealty to King Charles III of West Francia following the Siege of Chartres in 911. The intermingling of peoples in Normandy produced an ethnic and cultural Norman identity in the first half of the 10th century. The Normans had a major political, cultural, and military impact on medieval Europe and the Near East. The Normans were historically famed for their martial culture. The original Norse settlers adopted the Gallo-Romance language of the Frankish land they settled, with their Old Norman dialect becoming known as Norman. Between 1066 and 1204, as a result of the Norman conquest of England, most of the kings of England were also dukes of Normandy. In 1204, Philip II of France seized mainland Normandy by force. It remained a disputed territory until the Treaty of Paris of 1259, when the English sovereign ceded his claim to the duchy. Rollo was a Viking warlord who, as Count of Rouen, became the first ruler of Normandy. Rollo was born in the mid-9th century. It is uncertain whether he was Danish or Norwegian. The earliest well-attested historical event associated with Rollo is his part in leading the Vikings who besieged Paris in 885. After the Siege of Chartres in 911, Charles the Simple, the king of West Francia, granted the Vikings lands between the mouth of the Seine and what is now Rouen in exchange for Rollo agreeing to end his raiding, swearing allegiance to him, conversion to Christianity, and a pledge to defend the Seine's estuary from future Viking raids. During Rollo's pledge of fealty to Charles III, the bishops urged Rollo to kiss the king's foot to prove his allegiance. Rollo refused, saying, "I will never bow my knees at the knees of any man, and no man's foot will I kiss." Instead, Rollo commanded one of his warriors to kiss the king's foot. The warrior complied by raising the king's foot to his mouth while the king remained standing, which caused the king to topple backward, much to the amusement of their entourage. William the Conqueror was the first Norman king of England, reigning from 1066 until his death in 1087. In 1066, following the death of Edward the Confessor, William invaded England, leading an army of Normans to victory over the Anglo-Saxon forces of Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings, and suppressed subsequent English revolts in what has become known as the Norman Conquest. In 1086, he ordered the compilation of the Domesday Book, a survey listing all of the land holdings in England along with their pre-conquest and current holders. The rest of his life was marked by struggles to consolidate his hold over England and his continental lands. One of the effects of the conquest was the introduction of Old Norman, a northern dialect of Old French with limited Nordic influences, as the language of the ruling classes in England, displacing Old English. Opportunistic bands of Normans successfully established a foothold in southern Italy, probably as the result of returning pilgrim stories. The Normans entered southern Italy as warriors in 1017 at the latest. The Normans eventually captured Sicily and Malta from the Muslims, under the leadership of the famous Robert Guiscard. The Normans are noted both for their culture, such as their unique Romanesque architecture and musical traditions, and for their significant military accomplishments and innovations. Norman adventurers played a role in founding the Kingdom of Sicily under Roger II after briefly conquering southern Italy, and Malta from the Saracens and Byzantines. Norman and Anglo-Norman forces contributed to the Iberian Reconquista from the early 11th to the mid-13th centuries. The legacy of the Normans persists today through the regional languages and dialects of France, England, Spain, Quebec, and Sicily, and also through the various cultural, judicial, and political arrangements they introduced in their conquered territories.